We've reached the end of the road, the end of the yellow corn road. There's no pot of gold at the end of it, but I will at least be able to reclaim my sanity. Hi guys, before we get into it, a couple of quick disclaimers. Firstly, there will be some spoilers today, but I promise it will not affect your enjoyment of this movie. And secondly, you'll find all my other reviews of Stephen King adaptations in my Stephen King playlist. I think I've got more than 30 in there at this point, although probably about a third of them are Children of the Corn related. But I promise that will change going forwards because this is the final episode of my Children of the Corn review series. This one was directed by Kurt Wimmer. You might remember him from such films as One Tough Bastard and Ultraviolet. This was the first Children of the Corn movie to be released theatrically since the second one at the end of the 80s or start of the 90s, I forget which. But this newer one didn't do very well. It only made $575,000 at the box office. Now, just for a little bit of contrast and compare, the recent Conjuring movie, Last Rites, at the time of doing this video, it's made $350 million, which is 700 times more what this 2020 Children of the Corn film made. Now, to be fair, obviously 2020 was peak COVID. I reckon if this had been released nowadays in 2025, it would have made at least $600,000 or $700,000, maybe even $800,000 with good marketing. But moving on to the plot, I'm not sure if this film is meant to be a sequel or a remake. If we go by Wiki, then it's a remake, the second one, because there was also another film called Children of the Corn in 2009. But I just don't buy that this is a remake given what happens in the first 5 minutes of the story. So this murderous teenager comes out of the corn. Clearly he's being influenced by He Who Walks Behind the Rose. He goes into this small orphanage and starts killing all the adults. Then the police turn up, surprisingly quickly actually, but instead of storming the building and trying to save all the little ones from this psychopath, they just gas the place out, killing everybody instantly. And I just don't buy that police would behave this way. I think that they would at least try and go in there and make some kind of effort to save the kids. It's almost as if this particular police force is so scarred from all the sequels over the years and all the different batches of kids that have sprung up in different towns that they're just not going to take any shit anymore. They'll just launch a strike on whatever building is showing up as having murderous kids inside it. So it might officially be a remake if we go by Wiki, but like I said, I think it feels more like a sequel, albeit one that doesn't have any holdover characters. There is a lot of actual corn in this movie, and that hasn't been the case certainly in the most recent 2 or 3 that I've reviewed. But in this one, clearly they were on location at an actual cornfield, or maybe more than one cornfield. I don't know where in the USA because info about this film is extremely limited online. It's a very cruel, violent film as well. Not in terms of gore, but just the implication of how people are dying and how they must have been suffering at the point of dying. There are people who are buried alive in this film, for instance, and there are lots of kills where the victims don't have much agency in terms of what's going on. They're either tied up or they're in captivity and then they are killed. Now, this isn't normally my favourite sort of horror. I grew up with the more traditional slashers like your Michaels and your Jasons, where the victims were free to run around right up until the moment where the knife would come down into them, you know. They had a chance. Up until the last possible moment, they had some kind of chance. But in this Children of the Corn, people don't have a chance a lot of the time. They are immobilised, and it's just not... It's not my favourite type of horror, like I said. I make this complaint knowing full well in my head that I have enjoyed plenty of Saw films over the years, but certainly it seems to be a distinguishing feature of this particular Children of the Corn that a lot of the characters just can't fight back a lot of the time because they are just tied up or in a jail cell or whatever. Although possibly the writers were worried that people might wonder why the adults couldn't just overwhelm the kids if it was a level playing field. So maybe having the adults not able to move is their way out of this, if you see what I mean. In this film, we get to see He Who Walks Behind the Rose, which doesn't usually happen, although I guess if this does turn out to be the final Children of the Corn, then it's quite appropriate that we see the main entity behind the curtain kind of a thing. It doesn't look anything like what I would have expected it to look like, though. It's like a giant stick creature. It sort of resembles the Ents from Lord of the Rings. I almost expected it to bound up to the human characters and ask them where Saruman the White is. I'll tell you who else it looks like. Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. You get the picture. But this thing is fairly intimidating, actually, and the special effects for it are somewhat decent. The entire movie looks like a much slicker production than certainly the 2 or 3 films that came out before it. The human villains, i.e. the kids, they're pretty solid. Their leader this time is a girl called Eden, and I'd say she's less annoying than some of the boy leaders we've had in some of the other sequels. Her henchmen, or hench boys and girls, they're pretty effective for the most part. They've got a decent array of weapons like chainsaws and bats and what have you. Although I don't know where they end up come the finale. It just seems to end up being Eden and the Ent creature. I don't know where all the other kids go, unless I missed something, but I don't think I did. Although, you know what, my brain was kind of decomposing from boredom towards the end, but I just don't remember any kids dying apart from Eden. The main protagonist is Bo, played by Elena Kampouris. I'm not mad about this performance. She's got some annoying tics. Like, whenever she's about to say something really important to a group, she'll kind of like lean forwards a little bit, and her mouth tends to like hang open a little bit before the actual words come out. I much preferred the performance of the girl who plays the villain. The only member of the cast that I recognised from other movies is Bruce Spence. Now, if that name is not familiar to you, maybe it will be after I tell you who he played the gyro captain in Mad Max 2 and 3. I don't think I've seen him since those movies, and he looks really old now, but it was just cool to see him playing another role, even though he doesn't have a hell of a lot to do here. I think they should have just had him playing the actual gyro captain. Maybe he could have retired to Nebraska. They definitely could have done with a plane in this movie to get themselves out of Dodge. I can just picture him saying to the other characters, "You don't seem to understand. There's not enough runway between us and the corn." There are far too many stupid, illogical, dumb things that happen in this movie, ultimately. For instance, at one point there's a town hall meeting where everybody's voting on whether to get rid of all the corn in the town, and the vote ends up being won by the side who wants to get rid of the corn, right? Now, during this scene, all the murderous kids just happen to be sat around the outside of the room, and one of them pipes up, "Well, don't we get a chance to vote?" And the adults all start laughing, which is fair enough, but it's not a quick laugh that's over in about 2 seconds. It's this like never-ending laugh that just keeps going and going. So it's kind of like, just when you think the laugh is going to end, it seems to change cadence and go on a little bit longer. And it's like, this laugh would not go on for that long. It's like, it wasn't that funny what this kid said. Now, I know why the director has got all the actors to laugh for a really long time, because it's obviously giving motivation to the children to murder these rude people who would be laughing at them for half an hour, because you can see the kids, you can see their faces, like, and you know that they've already been turned by he who walks behind the rose at this point, but it's just such an unrealistic laugh. It's ridiculous. I don't like Bo's brother as a character, so at the beginning of the film, Bo gets accepted into university to do some kind of microbiology degree, a fantastic opportunity for a young person. But the brother's reaction is to basically go, "Oh, so you're just going to leave us all here? You're just going to go and then never come back and we'll be all alone without you? Oh, great. Thanks, sis." And he's really serious about it as well. He's not like sarcastic. And I just find this the most selfish attitude. The idea that you would blackmail somebody emotionally into not going to university is just a really awful attitude for me. And this character, this brother, he's in like most of the movie, so I was just totally offside with him from a very early stage. Bo herself is not free of criticism either. Like, so her reaction to losing the vote on the corn is to wait for nighttime and then put handcuffs on her mum and dad when they're asleep in bed, then wake them up and explain to them that she's going to frog march them down to the town hall so they can talk about the issue with the corn even more. Like, what a stupid idea, and as if this would ever work. I mean, it does work in this movie because the movie's stupid, but in real life, Parents aren't going to wake up with handcuffs on them and agree to go along with what the children are asking. It's just silly. Like, if I woke up and I had handcuffs on my wrists and my kid was stood there like, right, now you're going to listen to me and my point of view, I'd be like, boy, you get the keys to these handcuffs right now or you are going to be grounded for like the next 15 years. Overall, I can't say I'm huge about the movie. It's not the worst of the bunch, as you'll see when I get to my ranking, but I certainly didn't like it and I wouldn't recommend it. It is a little bit more slick than some of the others. It's reasonably well directed. There are some moments in it where I thought, oh, that's pretty good, but these occasions were too few and far between for me, and certainly I did a lot of clock watching when I had this on. You know, I was constantly checking how long there was left. It didn't help that this is the 11th time around for me. If this had been like the 6th or the 7th one, I think I would have been in a better frame of mind for it. You know, I almost felt like I was spoiling for a fight critically before I even set this film to play, if you see what I mean. But I guess there are worse Children of the Corn films that you could watch, ultimately, but I've certainly got nothing more to say about it at this point, so when we return in a few seconds' time, I will have my score for you. So, here comes the bag of terror then. We've got 1 and 2 Michael Myers carving knives out of 5, and believe me, this is being generous. So we have arrived at the end of my Children of the Corn review series. Yes! I finally got there. Well, I still have my rankings video to do, but the thing about that is I don't have to watch any more movies in order to do the rankings video. I've just got to sort of write down my order that I'd put the films in and turn the camera on. Whereas for these individual reviews, obviously I've got to watch a movie beforehand. But I'm so pleased to have got to the end of this. I can't even tell you. We can now move on to other Stephen King things, which is going to be really, really cool. So I guess we'll wrap it up for today. If you haven't followed me on X up until this point, please do so. My name on there is the same as it is here. I just do random tweets about games and films and stuff, and I'm reacting to movie news now and again and stuff like that. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you all again next time. Bye-bye.